Hello, and welcome to one of the last videos in this series, and also, if you're just trying to be Sound Chief, probably a completely optional video, because today we're going to talk about this, which is the Guitar PA. This is a video about the guitar setup, how they set up for playing on the bridge, playing during Taste, playing at, Art Fair, and yeah, it's entirely about guitar. So this is super useful if you are the tech coordinator and running guitar events, if you're the chief and you're interested, or if you're a guitar student and watching this because you would like to be able to help out in setting this up. So I've been setting this up for guitar for the last 3 years. During my sophomore year, Mr. Peak, actually I think it was last year, early last year, Mr. Peak first bought this, and me and him stayed after school until like 6 p.m. trying to set it up and get it working, and then when we finally learned how to do it and set everything up right, we wrote everything down in a little piece of paper that I think was lost. So this is the replacement for that. Okay, let's dive right into it. So somewhere sitting next to the PA is going to be this tiny little router. This is just as important. Along with this, you will also need Mr. Peak's iPad for mixing, which currently we cannot find. So we are going to be using instead the iPad for the theater in the booth, which is currently on Wanda. So there is going to be an awkward cut right now. And we're back. Okay, so here's the iPad. There's a whole video on how to use the iPad if you need that. Today I'm going to assume that you already know all of that. And also it's pretty simple. First step, go to the sides, flick out these little things, and then unscrew them. These will extend, and when they extend, they're no longer like tightly clawed on, so you can pull it out. Lovely. Set those to the side for now. And this is the PA. It is basically a fancier version of the stage box in Wanda because it also has a little screen that is the exact same as the screen right here. Lovely. So, first, quick notes is there's a bunch of cables up here. These cables are important for setting up the connection to the router, which allows this bad boy to connect to the iPad. Because the point of the PA is that you don't have to have a mixer with it because you do all of the mixing on the iPad. First up, this blue cable, you're going to want to take that. This blue cable you'll notice is plugged in right here. This black cable is plugged in right here to the Ethernet. This is connected to this. This white box is connected to this thing. So this blue cable here, you're going to want to take, this is an extra one, you're going to want to specifically find the one that is connected to the white box and plug it into the router. Right here. Plug it in right there. There we go. Okay, it is now plugged into the router. And when this gets power, there will be a green light appearing right here. Let's get it power. This cable right here is plugged into here. It goes around the back and comes out the top. You're going to want to plug this into power. Note, the power plug-in thing right here does absolutely nothing. Don't worry about that. Okay, let's plug them into power. Shablam. They're plugged in. That's plugged into a wall. And now, this thing is two on buttons. Two separate on buttons. They both have to be turned on or it won't turn on. First one is this, power on switch, and then this button, click it, and that turns on the top part, this. Once this is on, you can press this to turn on this. These will light up. This will say X32. Lovely. And then give it a hot second while I pull up a chair, and we'll be able to see everything. So, if you've watched my series of tutorials on the board, every time that I mention the menus up here, you can find those right here. Lovely, look at that, and everything is the same. You have mute groups, scenes, utility, then you also have everything else over here. Isn't that fun? You have all the same information. It's on here. You also have God mic, monitor, and then over here, solo and mutes for a channel. This determines which channel you have selected. So this is the same thing on the iPad with the two buttons in the bottom left. That's how you select a channel, and then this is whether or not that channel is unmuted. Yeah. Lovely. And then this is the fader for that channel. Cool. So, let's see. USB for recording. I believe this is the view button for USB. Yes, it is. Lovely. Okay. Let's talk connecting this bad boy. So, this now has green lights, which means if we grab the iPad, Remember what I said about the iPad and making sure you were on the right Wi-Fi and you had the right IP address. Right now, this iPad is set for the IP address and Wi-Fi for the board. So let's change that. If we go to settings. Oh boy. And then we want X32 rack. There we go. X32 rack. There is a password, but I believe the password is super simple. It's like X32 rack 1 or something like that. But also this iPad and Mr. Peak's iPad both like do the autofill the password. So as long as you don't hit forget this network, you'll be fine. No internet connection. That's a good thing. Because this thing should not be connected to the internet. Just like the router over there, the entire purpose is to connect these two devices. We don't need to connect to the internet. So you won't be able to like search stuff up with this. You'll only be able to connect with X32Mix. So even though we're on the right Wi-Fi, the IP address is still wrong. So hit setup, go to network, and then 2125 is what we're copying down. 2125. Boop boop. Dot boop boop. And then when we're ready, hit connect, and shablam! We have the mixer that goes with the PA. Lovely. So now you can see all of the channels are the same. Yippee. So now the iPad is set up, and then that is the majority of the job, is just setting up this little thing. Oh my god, I hate chairs. Okay, so the next thing is plugging stuff in. You can see the routing on the iPad for all of the, if you go to analog out and scroll through these, you can see where things should be plugged in. And you need to tell people, you need to tell the guitar folk, or if you're watching this to help out, learn this so that you know where to plug stuff in. Outputs 1, 2, 3, and 4 are for the monitors. These are monitors for the vocalist, monitors for the drums, monitors for the keys. Lovely. Output 5, I believe, is just, you can use it for whatever you want. If you need a 5th monitor, if you have another speaker. Output 6 are the subs. Output 6, you want to daisy chain the subs, which means, oh, I realized that, some of the guitar people I worked with this year did not know what daisy chaining was. So, speakers, this is a common speaker, common monitor, have two kinds of ports. You will notice that they have both output ports and input ports. Why is that? For something called daisy chaining. So, if a speaker should technically, and a lot of speakers do, they only have one port. One output port to plug in your input into the output, which is the speaker. So, if that were the case, and the speaker only had one port, then every single speaker you had would have to plug in to the board. You would have to connect a wire from every single speaker you were using into the board. But what if you had multiple different speakers of the same kind? Well, you can connect one speaker's output port to another speaker's input port, and then that speaker will take all of the information from this speaker too, and that will also send to the board. That is called daisy chaining them. Because you're chaining them, you're linking them together with XLRs instead of everything going back to the main board. So that is why some of these have mix outputs or daisy chain ports. And that's the one that's an input, even though a speaker should only have, in theory, output ports. Okay, cool. The reason I'm stressing this is because this event, this last guitar show, we were setting up, and I told somebody to wire up a speaker, and they were wondering why it wasn't working. It was because they plugged in a cable into the mix output, and they plugged it into an input on the board, and they expected that to work. Maybe if you hit phase shift, but other than that, that's not going to work. So let's plug in this bad boy back for now. This is the booth monitor. Say hi. Oh, that's not plugging in. There we go. Okay, lovely. Back to you. So obviously, you're going to want to plug all of your outputs into the outputs, which are down here. So these, oh, wait, it goes this way. These 4 monitors, this is blank, subwoofers, and then these 2 are your mains. If you look here, outputs 7 and 8 are mains left and right. So whatever the biggest 2 speakers are, plug them into 7 and 8, and then daisy chain your subwoofers and plug them into 6. Lovely. Let's look at everything else. The first 6 channels are devoted to drums. You can plug, if you're using the electronic drums, if you please plug them into just 1. Actually, no, please plug them into just 6 for overhead. If you have a fancy setup and are using individual mics or can get individual channels for each part of the drum, plug them in through 1 through 6, exactly how it says on the iPad. Otherwise, just plug in the drums to overhead. If they're using the acoustic drums, that's totally fine. It just means that you have to mix around the drums. Lovely. Next, keys. Keys are channel 7, so plug them into channel 7. Bass is channel 8, plug it into channel 8. The guitars. Okay. Acoustic guitars, you just hold up a mic to the guitar or put a mic on a stand next to one of the guitars. These 3 guitars, you can plug in directly to the board. 9, 10, and 11, you can plug in the guitars here. Obviously, guitars use 1/4 inch, and these are XLR, so you have to get an adapter, but you can plug in those guitars straight into the PA, and then you can mix them, which means that you can make some amazing sounding solos that you normally couldn't with just playing the guitars straight through their amps. Vocalists, 14 through 16, so you're going to want to plug them in, 14 through 16. Lovely. Okay, and then you also have some other stuff, effects. Your buses, you have an instrument bus, vocals bus, and then buses for the effects. Verb for instruments, verb for vocals, delay, echo, long delay, echo but longer. You can see your outputs here, mains, subs, and yeah. Also note, if you're watching this from a tech coordinator or sound sheet perspective, this PA does have a main fader that's working, so we do use it. That also means that everything that I said in the video about buses and sends regarding the stereo bus absolutely still applies. Sorry. It still applies, but the thing where we do not use the stereo bus because the main fader is broken does not apply anymore. You can use the stereo bus if you want, but if you also just want to have everything going through the comp or the vocals bus, and then send that stereo bus, which is how they're getting to... So in our system, we have to have the buses send to the matrices, but in this system, the mains are the mains, so everything needs to go through the main bus at some point. Whether you want the buses for the vocals and instruments to go to the main bus, or you just want the inputs to go straight into the main bus, you can choose. I would rather have control over some of those groups, and DCAs are a little weird for me when I'm mixing just a guitar show, so I prefer to just have inputs go into buses, buses go into the main bus. Cool. Lovely. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. Main things, set this up, how to connect this bad boy, and then use the iPad's channels to tell the guitar kids where to plug stuff in. Once everything's plugged in, sound check everything, have the guitar players play some notes and make sure you can hear it on their channels. Yeah, that's about it. Alright. Another video that's... No, this one is not under 10 minutes. Well, I tried. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the flip side.